Hey, Victory, and welcome back to Single Life, where we are discussing how to do single life in a way that honors God, ourselves, and others. And today, I'm so excited because I have some new friends with new stories to share. Guys, how are you doing?
Oh, Lord.
So good.
So good. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Well, let's go around. Let's just introduce ourselves a little bit. Maybe what you do here at Victory. We'd love to hear it. Quentin, let's start with you.
Oh, my gosh. Well, my name is Quentin. I'm the web manager here at Victory. And that's all you want, right?
That's all I want. That's
Okay,
great.
cool.
That's what you want to share. That's great.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, fantastic.
Nice. I'm Megan. I am the service programming coordinator here at Victory.
Nice.
So
Beautiful.
big title for just making sure everybody has what they need on
Absolutely.
Sunday.
Yeah, pretty much a boss. It's
And
great.
we thank you
We
because
do.
I've
We
been in
need
the
you.
back. We need that. We need you.
It's
Yes.
crazy. Yes.
Hi, I'm
Sweet.
Jamie. I'm the new 6th and 7th youth coordinator.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, yay, we are so excited and honored to have you guys here today. We're just going to dive into some conversation. And in some of our past videos, we have talked about praying for your future spouse. And that is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So we're super excited. So I have a question for you guys to just start it off. But how has that looked for you in life? How has that changed for you? Like, how did you pray for your future spouse? Do you still pray? Are you kind of like, God, did you forget about me? Like, where are you at with that? So just kind of, what has that looked like for you guys over the years?
Oh, Lord. No, it's been good. I feel like when I was younger, I think I prayed differently. I desired differently. And it was a little different for me when I first got saved. I just kind of went straight into like God things, like do all the things God is leading me to do. And along that journey, I kind of systemized like a spouse. So I was in my 20s, I was married. So I systemized it. It was like a checklist thing, and it was really bad. But now, since I'm a little older, I think I've refined anything. I've been refined to approach that completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
Megan, what about you?
Ooh, what a good question. Honestly, I think it's really has been a night and day difference from me and 18, 19, 20-year-old Megan praying for her future husband versus now Megan. I think when I was younger, I was much more consistent in praying for my future husband, but I wouldn't say that I was praying for him, but asking to receive one.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was very selfish, very like, Lord, when's it going to happen? Bring him to me. I'm ready. I'm here.
Yeah.
I am willing, Lord. And now it's a lot more when I do end up praying, because I don't pray as often, just very like plainly don't pray as often for it. But it's more, Lord, like check the areas in me that need to be refined. Like not that something has to be wrong with me, although sometimes I feel like that. But like genuinely, Lord, like what is it in me that is not ready to hold the weight of a spouse, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes incredible sense. Yeah. Jamie?
I feel like similarly, like, I don't know if I was ever like a dreamer or like I didn't dream about like huge weddings or anything. And I was pretty okay like being alone. But I think I began to like start like praying about like myself and like being ready to receive it as well. Like I was just like, oh, like God, like I'm scared. Like I'm so scared to get married. Like what does that even look like, to know like who like the one is, you know? So instead, like I think I started preparing my heart and was like, hey God, like I need you to like get me ready. Yeah.
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 Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I think something huge that you said was you were more so, instead of praying for your spouse as in like the person, you were praying for your spouse as in receiving.
Yeah.
185%. When I was younger, I was like, okay, God, I'm ready.
Bring it
Bring
on.
him on. Like I'm going to be perfect. And then as years and years and years went by, and that, still wasn't happening. And I was like, okay, what? And then kind of to Quentin's point, becoming refined and understanding like, okay, whoa, let me actually pray. Correct is strong, but let me pray outward versus like selfishly. Let me actually pray in a way that's like, okay, Lord, how do you want me to pray for my spouse? How do you want me to pray for my spouse to receive him and in the timing that you have for me? But then how do you want me to pray for him for him? Like, I don't know. He knows, who. And so what does that look like? And how do I do that? And so I think over the years for me, it's become a shift like that of like, okay, how do I do that? And Lord, will you be with me in the midst of that process versus me trying to do it all by myself? With that though, I'm thinking about what is the thought process that you have for someone praying for you? Like, do you ever stop and think about that there's someone out there praying for you, not knowing that they might be praying for you, but a spouse at some point, assuming that, you know, the Lord has that for us all, believing that he does. But how does that make you feel? Or do you even think about that? Have you ever thought about that? I don't really know that I have.
Uncomfortable. It's weird. And that's all I have. It's just like the idea, like, I think even someone praying for you, as in like you being their future spouse, strange.
Mm-hmm.
But even the idea of like one of my friends praying for me when they know I'm going through things, I think that's just the idea of somebody else going to God on your behalf. It's like sobering. Like, it's weird, but it's also sobering. Like, somebody loves me enough, whether they know me or not, to go on behalf for me in the things that I want, the things that I need, the things that they're hoping I am for them. Like, it's a strange thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Jamie? I mean, I got a little, it's not directly answering that. Like, I haven't, like, it didn't really hit me until I was in my 30s, and I'm 34 now. And I didn't really think about, wow, somebody's praying for me. But it hit me, like I say, in the past year or so, like when I would seemingly avoid crazy situations, crazy entanglements, crazy things. And I'm just like, Lord, you protected me from that. And I think I heard one time, and I don't know, it might have been the spirit, it might have been myself. But it was like, yeah, somebody who's covering you from that. And I was just like, and it just hit me that, whoa, like I'm being the recipient of that prayer, that covering, and understanding that the things that I'm experiencing now or being involved in now or going through now are all building some type of story person that I'm going to show up to the table with someday. And there's some fear there. Like, am I going to be proud of that story that I show up with? But I mean, it comes from, you know, what I'm doing to get closer to God, and then that person praying for me. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's a fresh thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie, you want to share?
Yeah. I think the thought came later for me too, but I think like the idea of preparation and refining within that process, I think that's what's coming to mind, you know? And I remember someone had told me or like prayed over me and was like, thank you, God, for preparing a husband for Jamie, you know? And I think that thought came to me and like, I like received it well, but I was also like, man, like if someone is being prepared for me, I also need to get prepared as well, you know? And I think that's kind of like a motivation for me to pray for my future husband and even for myself, right? And I think it's a beautiful process where like, even when we meet like God in the future, it's like, I hope that we're continuously being refined to like be present before God and be purified before God. And like to get to that point, I think it's just like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of like a motivation for me to be just as prepared, but also be praying for the person as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I can come thinking about that question specifically. I can come from an honest place of knowing that in my time of waiting and in my time of praying, there were moments where I actually didn't know if I believed that anybody else was praying for me. Because it's tough. It's tough just out here and waiting for so long, you know, and understanding like on the head side of things, understanding like what the Bible says, understanding that God is for you and not against you, understanding that he is more of what we're desiring more than a person. Like we know that. And I stand on that and I believe in that. And we just did another video on contentment in that. And I do believe that I am. However, there are moments and times where I don't know, my heart hasn't quite caught up to the head yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like, God, I don't even know if this is something that you have. I want to believe it. I want to believe it with everything in me. And I still stand on it and I still trust him in that. But then there are those days where I'm like, your girl don't even know. Like, I'm just out here. I'm still going to do what you've called me to do. I'm still going to be obedient. I'm still going to take one foot and put it in front of the other. But man, it's really hard when you see nothing. And so the thought of someone praying for me, it's a beautiful thought. And it is a sobering and humbling thought of like, that's crazy. And am I going to be the person, like they're going to meet me and be like, wow, this is it? And I'm like, hi.
So like my prayers didn't transfer.
It didn't actually,
the angels got caught up on the way to you. That's what happened.
It's off a little, but and just having that notion of like, crap, am I going to be? But understanding and trusting God at the end of the day, I'm still placing it in his hands. I'm still surrendering it to him and I'm still giving it to him and understanding like, okay, Lord, I want to believe that because I'm praying for a godly spouse, then I'm trusting and believing that he is going to be praying those things. And so if I allow myself to sit in that space, it's super exciting.
Can I ask a question?
Sure can.
How do you balance that thought of like, I want to pray for my husband, my future spouse, but I'm losing hope or I'm losing traction in like, how do you continue to go before the Lord in that?
It's a great question.
I'll be here all day.
Man, I think high level, when I get to those places, two things. One, I stand on his word and I understand that he is hope. Like that is what we have in him. We have faith and we know that faith is the evidence of things hoped for. The substance of things unseen. There we go. And so understanding that substance there of hope, I'm like, okay, Lord, at the end of the day, that is what you are. That is who you are. And that is what I put my trust in you. The second thing, though, is I have a community of people that can pick me up and just scrape me up a little bit when I'm like, guys, it's not going to happen and it's fine. So whatever, we're just going to have 17 cats. It doesn't matter. So
that's not my ministry.
Specific number.
Yeah,
I mean,
17.
you thought about that a few times.
17. Actually, not really a huge fan of cats, so it's going to be dogs. But either way, no shade to the ones that love cats, but that's just not your girl. But yeah, I have a community of people, honestly, that I lean on and that encourage me and lift me up and point me back to the Lord. Because truthfully, at the end of the day, it is hard. And I've had those moments a lot. And I think as I'm getting older, I wouldn't say that I'm old, but just as the years pass, as I'm getting older, I'm like, and then you see, sorry, I felt it. Because then you see, number one, I think what's so hard, truthfully, is you see social media.
Yeah.
You see like the stats of just no one's getting married anymore. And people don't believe in marriage. Of course, it's outside of the church.
And
but
the divorce rates.
Yes. Divorce rates are crazy. Who's looking for who, what people want. And you're just like, so I'm already the minority in several ways, Christian and out here. And I'm like, okay. And then you just see all that. That's enough to shoot all of your hope and be like, well, it's bleak and it's not happening. And so in that, I have to stand and trust that before I was even thought of, he formed me in my mother's womb. And if this is something that he genuinely has for me, then it's going to happen. I just have to be patient. My favorite. I just have to be patient and I have to continuously go to him in it.
Honestly, I think the thing that comes to mind is like, do you guys feel pressured, like praying for your person? Or like when you hear like, oh, like someone's praying for you, do you feel pressured to get to a certain place to be ready for that person? Because I think like when I was thinking about it as you guys are talking, I was like, man, like thinking about like someone's praying for me, right? For marriage, it's like, it almost puts like a little bit of pressure for me. I'm like, oh, I need to get to a certain place in order to be ready to get married. You know what I mean? But like a part of it for me is also like understanding like there's grace and knowing that like we're not here to perform for whoever, right? So do you guys feel pressured at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a lot I'll speak from a male perspective of just like, there's certain expectations. I feel obviously through social media, like you said, there's certain things, there's narratives put out there. And then being a believer, we have a certain standard that men are just expected to be. That's a whole kit and caboodle we won't get into. I felt old right there. Kit and caboodle.
Never gonna heard of
it. But there's a lot of pressure. Yeah, because of the standards that are in society. And then one thing that I found lately, I guess this is just me looking from being just a little older, a little wiser as I'm in this world again of dating and just understanding another person, is it's not just a standard from that person. It's a standard from that person's parent or
Yeah.
their guardian or whatever. Like I have these weird questions popping up in my mind now. Like, what does her dad want for her? What does her dad expect of me to do for her? Because he's handing her off.
Yeah.
And it's like, can I do what he needs me to do? Or should I even be asking that question? So, I mean, there's pressure from every which and way. But I think I go back to what you said, Jamie. Like, there's also a grace in knowing that I don't have to be anything other than what God is, leading me to be. Like, there's no, a lot of times we're our worst critic, or we can be the hardest on ourselves or something. And so I think a lot of that, though it is societal stuff that I see on Instagram, or thoughts that I have about the father, or thoughts that I have about her, a lot of it's coming from me. Most of it. Just the pressure I put on myself in every area of life. But this one here, it just gets extra. So that's
Extra.
it.
Absolutely.
Yes, the pressure is felt.
It's so real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pressure is for sure felt. Yeah. I think in the same way of like, am I doing it right? And Lord, am I being obedient? Lord, am I like, what do you want me to do? What do I need to do? But like, that's always the thought of like, Lord, what do I need to do to fix me? And I know at that point, like, that's the pressure that I'm putting on myself, because the Lord in his kindness, like, he will get me to where I need to be. But time and time again, the Lord has shown me that he is the one that's going to make things happen in my life. It will not be me, because then I get the glory from it. And I think the part where I think I feel the pressure the most is when I get to the headspace of, but I'm doing this right, and I'm doing this right, and I'm doing this right, and I don't go out and I don't do this, and I don't, like, all of those kind of, like, I'm doing it right technically. What's wrong with me then? Like, that's the follow-up question. And I think that's then where I start to feel the pressure, but it's never from the Lord, I think, is really what even just now kind of like unpacking is. It's not the Lord putting pressure on me to be better. It's me putting pressure on me to figure it out so that I get there faster, if that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yes, I agree with all of the things. There's a lot of pressure, and it is never the Lord.
Yeah.
Ever. He's chilling. I think about him in the boat.
Yes.
With the disciples. Literally, like, they are like, I'm sorry, excuse me. Do you not see what's happening? And Jesus is literally like, first, you woke me up for this.
That part.
Like, just
My slumber.
peace.
Peace.
Be still.
Or
Dang.
just chilling, like, could you just take a breath? And I'm like,
Is this how God sounds? This is y'all's rendition?
Yeah, for
Peace.
sure.
Be still.
Be
Very
still.
Interesting.
So literally,
Okay.
that's how he sounds. And so, yes. And with that, okay, so kind of segueing. So with that, and literally all of these things that we're talking about, God's timing is never our timing.
It's my favorite.
My favorite thing ever. So how do you handle the tension in his timing not being our timing? Obviously, we're specifically talking about praying for a future spouse, but in any, like, God's timing is not our timing in a lot of areas. So what does that look like, and how do you handle that tension?
When I got that prayer and like that person was like, oh, like, thank God that you're like preparing a husband for Jamie, like all this stuff. I think immediately the pressure, right? I was like freaking out. I was like, who is it? I'm like, who is it? Is it this one? Is it that guy? You know, like, I think for years, like my mind was like stuck on it whenever it came around, right? But I think I always went back to like, you know, like, but God's promise is true and it remains true. And I have to hold on to that, right? More than what anyone else is saying, or even what I'm thinking for myself. Like, that's never going to change if he says it's going to happen, you know? So I think throughout the years, even if there were guys that were interested, like for me, I made a commitment to God over a couple of years to be single, right? And like, there were guys that were like, hey, you know? There were guys, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I constantly was like, no, like, I'm going to stick to like what God said was true to me and like stay single for this time, right? And it was hard, but that's all I could hold on to because it's not going to shake, right? And like other people, what they say, it's going to be like tempting and like, it's going to lure you to different places. Like that's like what I had to hold on to no matter what. Yeah.
I got a thought. So completely opposite perspective. So being a man, and I feel like, I don't know, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the man is supposed to hunt it down. We're supposed to figure it out. We're supposed to go find. We're supposed to go. I'm just saying. I was on the search, and as I'm going, and it was harder for me to keep faith, to keep hope alive, because you'd find somebody, you'd grow with that person, become interwoven with that person, and you get so close, and then the cracks start to show or something. And that's what dating is for. And, from all of my study and research, I found dating is so that y'all can figure it out. You're learning everything you can, and you're trying to come to a decision, and the hardest part, no matter how short or long, the hardest part is when you arrive at a decision and and this is on me, I know when I know if it's a yes or a no, but it's so hard to communicate that. And then if it's a no, afterward, it's like, God, this is a hopeless hunt. This is a hopeless search. And I get to that place where I'm just like, here we go again. Or I've wasted 6 months of that person's life or 3 months of that person's life. And I just feel, I start to feel terrible about it. And I don't know, I think you were saying earlier, Sierra, it's the community that you have around you that's really helped you. And I feel like that's what it is for me when I'm in that place where I'm trying to keep hope alive, trying to figure out if I'm still going to stay on the treadmill, if you will, for lack of better words. Like, that's where I have to come back to. It's me hanging out with my boys and them saying, nah, man. And it's also, I keep a document of all the prophecies I've gotten. And I go back to that a lot. And God has always told me, like, no, you are called to be a husband. And that's really the only things that keep me in the fight.
I think that's an incredible perspective also from the male perspective, because I know for a fact in my life, there's this thought process sometimes with men, and I'm just like, they don't even care. Like, do they even care?
Oh, no.
They're just out here. Yeah, I've grown. Dang. I don't think that anymore. But I'm saying over years.
I don't think that anymore.
But I'm just saying, like, there was this notion of that. But then to genuinely hear that perspective of like, no, you're actively also doing the same thing. You're praying. And then it is to a certain degree, like, if you realize it's a no, you've got to tell.
Got to put your big boy pants on.
Yes, that it's a no. And I can only imagine.
Oh, it's detrimental.
Oh, yeah. I can only
absolutely
imagine.
Horrifying.
Yes.
I was tearing up while you were talking. I was
no.
Like, I think hearing you say that's just like, obviously it's a different perspective, but I think it's like kind of refreshing, but also like how hard it must be for guys to like try to navigate like leading what that looks like, because like sometimes us girls, we're just like, like, we're like praying, we're like hoping and waiting, but like for guys, like, well, as you were saying, I was just like, man, like I can't imagine having to make those decisions. Like, is it the right timing? Like being the person to lead that, it just seems like a whole nother layer of like, to do, like responsibility that I didn't like think about.
Yeah. I have a question. Because you answer for all, 8,500 billion men.
I'm sorry, fellas. I apologize right now. If I'm giving the keys to the game and y'all like, this dude need to shut up. Listen, go ahead.
No, my question is kind of blanketed, but seriously, I know, like in my early years, sometimes it can seem like, well, it's so simple. All you guys have to do is just ask. Like, if you see a girl that you might be interested in, just ask her out. Like, what's the problem? So we sometimes get in this headspace of just, we're sitting and we're waiting. Now, granted, we're not doing anything, which I'm not saying is okay. I'm just saying we're just like in this position of like, we just get to wait and they just have to pick us. But is number one, I imagine it's not just that simple, but is it that simple? And then number two, what is that thought process as you are praying for a future spouse, as the man who is essentially pursuing and doing that? What does that kind of look like from a male's perspective of, is it as simple as, oh, she's pretty, let me go talk to her? You know what I mean?
Oh, she's cute.
Is it making sense?
Let's go back to that first question.
Okay,
can you repeat it? Yeah. Because you got a lot of sub points.
I did.
I just want to make sure I'm. And then also, let me say this disclaimer that as I'm answering, I'm a man with a particular personality type.
Mhm.
And so I think it's
Absolutely.
helpful to know that there are men with different personality types.
100%.
I'm super extroverted, but I'm also introverted when I want to be.
Mhm.
And then also I'm very forward. I very much speak my mind, and sometimes that's not that good. But these are a couple of things that about me that kind of just take it into account as I answer
Absolutely.
these questions. So question number one.
Helpful. I'm trying to remember my questions in the order I asked
Oh
them.
Lord.
Okay, so I think question number one was, is it that simple? Is it that simple to go out and just see a girl that's pretty and ask her out?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay.
So while the conversation is easy, the talk is easy, but when you like somebody, it seems like all your skill and tact flies away.
Oh, no.
And it's just like, what happened? You know, like, so for me, I'm naturally charismatic. I'm naturally energetic, extrovert. I love making people laugh, get in the room talking, including people who seemingly don't want to talk. I love connecting with introverts. I love connecting. I will stand in their little corner. They go in the corner by themselves. They don't. Are you an introvert?
We both love and hate you
No,
as
I see.
introverts.
So,
I'm
and
an
that's the
extrovert.
thing.
I'm going to be an introvert.
but in that, it's so easy for me to just connect with people who
Absolutely.
have something so unique about themselves they just don't want to associate, and I love that. So it's easy to connect, but when you like somebody, when you are like saying, I want that person, or whatever goes off in a dude's mind, obviously that's what goes off in my mind. I get to this place where I'm just like, well, if I make her laugh too soon, she gonna be like, who is this guy? Or what if I make her laugh, she ha 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 and throw me in the friend zone? Or what if, and then also I think a lot. I'm analytical. So that's probably only happening in my brain. I have friends who are far more simple, and they are just like, I'm just gonna say something and we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of consideration in that. I think for a Christian man, there's always this, I'm sorry, ladies, I gotta highlight this. You know that when you're gonna talk to a Christian woman and you're shooting your shot, y'all said it earlier, they have been waiting probably for years. And so it's almost like you're walking into this vast land of, if you show a little interest, it's like you need to propose tomorrow. You need to tell me what our house looks like. You need to give me keys today. And it's scary because it's like, I don't want to, I want to express interest. Yeah, but I'm not saying I want to marry you today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so respecting that part of the fact that she's been waiting so long, but also kind of like, should I say something today or should I wait and just go ask her friends and try to figure out who she is
yeah.
and learn about her that way? Because if I say something today, ain't no telling, I may not ever be able to escape. Or if I'm so
He said
serious.
escape. That's deep.
I have an experience. I'm sorry, I'm belaboring this point, but I just expressed like a thought or interest or something. I think it was coffee one time, and man, it was like I signed up to go to the army for this person's
You signed
army.
your life away.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was like, wait. I didn't.
That's intense.
Why
It
am
is.
I? Yeah. Why? What is this chain? What is this lock on me? Like what?
Yeah.
So it's hard sometimes
Mhm.
going in knowing that if this person's been waiting too long, or if this person doesn't have a healthy attachment style, then we finna be locked in way too long.
Oh, yes.
And there's probably no escape. Or I'm probably gonna get slandered on social media after this.
No,
It
but I get it.
happens.
I was the crazy one.
Oh Lord!
It was me.
Something. No, just like,
But it was just because like we're always like as Christians, like we're told like we should be dating to get married, you know? I think that line is confusing. And after a while I had to let go of the understanding of like, yo, like dating isn't even in the Bible. Like let's just chill. Let's just get to know each other, right?
Mhm.
And then like the marriage talk, how real it is, can come later as we get to know each other. So sorry on behalf of all the girlies.
Right? Same. I'm like, dang. But that's so good. And honestly, what I'm hearing too for the ladies listening is number one, it is difficult for them to sometimes just be able to do that because the weight that they carry of if I ask you to coffee, the girl is like calling their friends like, oh my, okay, here's his picture, here's this, this is
His
me texting me.
Instagram.
This is a little,
Listen.
he gave me 3 exclamation points. What exactly? I don't know. And the
The
guy is like,
stress.
I just was
The
trying to
stress.
get to know your middle name. I just wanted
Really,
to,
that was it.
who
That was
are
the
you?
baseline.
Yeah. And I think that's important for females to know, you know, truthfully, is that as we're praying for for our future spouses, we have to always take it back to the Lord. So even if and when someone asks you to coffee, that does not, girl, chill. Like, okay, but then take that back to the Lord again. Lord, okay, we're going to coffee. Cool. Let me be chill and let's see where it goes after coffee. And then maybe something else, you know? But I think hopefully that takes a little bit of pressure off of the men asking those questions and asking them. And then the men going to the Lord and be like, okay, I'm going to continue to pursue, and then listening for you to tell me when.
No, and that another thought on that is that as I've gotten older, I realize just be honest about my intent. So that way
That right there.
there is no gray area,
That
and
right
I don't
there.
have to be worried about being trapped in no box. And she doesn't have to worry about the what if. I just go straight in. Hey man, wow, you're beautiful. I'm super interested in, like, can I just take you to coffee? Something like that. And even at coffee, I've gotten the question back like, it was like, I just want to ask, is this for real? And I'm like, in some cases, I had to be like, after talking with you a little bit, I think it's best we be friends. That line, fellas, will save your life. I think it's best we be friends.
Mhm.
But then some, one time only, actually, I was like, girl, I'm serious. And that was it.
But I also don't think it's bad for the girls to be straightforward too.
100%.
Yeah.
That makes it so much easier for the guy to
Mhm.
know where you're at.
Y'all so secretive though.
That's what I'm telling.
Okay,
That's what
all right,
I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's
Because I'd be
okay.
like, I can't read your mind. I
trying
don't
to
know
tell
what
you.
you're saying to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
You,
huge.
you had a second question. I completely forgot it. I'm sorry.
I think you answered it in the midst of
Yeah,
you
somewhere.
talking.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you answered it for sure.
Yeah.
But
So I feel like real fast, we do also have to talk about the guys that come up to you and say, but you're my future wife. But then also the females, us, that go behind the scenes and are like, oh my God, Becky, I think he's the one. God told me that he's my husband. Because I have been her.
Oh, dang.
I have been her and I regret it. I have regret.
yeah, crazy. Yes, I think high level, guys, and Quentin, of course, you can speak.
Oh,
You can
no.
speak for the
For
fellas,
the men.
but guys, no. Let's maybe not do that. And what I'm not saying is that God doesn't actually speak to people and say that. I 100%. I pray and I hope He speaks to you about who you're going to be with. But how you present that, like how you go about that, is crucial. And we're joking and it's funny, and it is, but also like, you have to be careful when you're going into those types of conversations and saying things like that, because it can, on both sides,
Yes.
to Megan's point, scare people, number one, off, and you come across a little bit crazy. A little crazy. But what's the intention? I guess my thing would be like, what's the motive? Why are you coming at it so hard that way? What's the motive behind it on both sides? Because the females are out here too.
Yeah, we are.
Just the Lord told me you're my husband. Whoa. Okay, pause. What? So
Take a deep breath.
please,
Men.
three of them, 3 deep ones. Yeah, like know the intention and the motive behind it, saying something like that or going to do something like that.
I think because I blatantly said that I was one of them.
Yes, please,
recovering.
please.
Elaborate.
Elaborate and okay.
Oh, wow.
Let's collaborate, but I tried.
It's fine.
I was just trying to be cool. Anyway, so yes. So I think for me, when it came to like finding my girlfriends and being like, oh my God, he's the one. Didn't even go on a date. Was just like, oh, he's cute. Lord, Okay.
Wow.
Hey.
I can react.
Watch
and
it.
respond.
Watch it.
You said you're no longer like
That's
this,
right.
right?
Recovering.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's right.
We are healed in Jesus' name. For me, it was, I wish in those moments somebody had said two things to me. One, slow down for half a second. What is it about him that is like triggering this? Oh, God said he's the one. Because do I fully believe that God said that he was the one? No. And that, no. I'm just trying to make something happen that wasn't happening. But there were aspects of his personality, of his character, of the way that he loved the Lord. Like those things were attractive to me, but I didn't have enough like emotional awareness to say, oh, those things are attractive to me. Lord, I want that. Like that was more what I was saying without was saying it completely the wrong way. But then two, one of my friends at one point reminded me that like when Mary was told that she was going to, have Jesus, give birth to the Savior, she treasured them in her heart and she kept them there. Like she didn't go and tell her neighbors and so Joe from down the street, hey, I'm going to have the Savior of the world. She treasured those things in her heart and she allowed the Lord to reform them and like let it grow in the way. Yes. Like let it just sit there for a second and become what it was, like what he had intended, where I was like, okay, cool. He's the one. Like there was no time for it to even become a part of who I was. I was just like essentially like word vomiting it out. And then it had no chance to actually stick in my spirit, like even a little bit. So yeah, I wish somebody would have told me just to take a deep breath and figure out why do I think that? Number one. And number two, to just like hold it safe. Let the Lord keep it safe for a little bit before I go and tell people. And by people, I mean my friends. I wasn't like crazy, like putting it on social media or nothing.
I didn't say. Why you looking at me? I'm just saying.
I don't know. I feel attacked.
Well, no, I'll empathize here because I wasn't gonna say, but I'm just gonna say to let you know I was the guy version of that.
See?
No lie. So I was excited. Now he doesn't do this often, but he at all really it only happened with one person, and I was like, yo, this is my wife. Like this happened, that happened, it's lining up. But God did something very specific for me. I was all excited. Blah, blah, blah. I'm all excited. I'm hanging out with the boys and I'm just telling them, yeah, man, blah, 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 blah. And they reprimanded me. They said, bruh, you need to stop. You need to calm down. You need to shut up, basically. And I was so angry. I ain't gonna lie. That first day, I was so angry because I was so excited for this thing. And they were telling me, no, like, calm down. Like, you need to pray. I'm like, I already prayed. God is already speaking. And the next day, hit them up and I apologized. And basically what God showed me, he was like, I will lead you to the well, but you need to do your due diligence when you get there to draw it up, to try the water. You need to, don't just hear me lead you and then you think that's it. Like whenever in life does he lead us to something and then that's it? He was just leading us to the promised land. No, you had to fight. You had to be strategic with war to take Canaan. That's a Joshua reference. But the other thing that really stuck out to me is I was reading the book of Ruth and observing how Boaz, though he was aware like, yo, I can redeem this woman to be my wife and continue the bloodline. He didn't do it hastily.
Yeah.
He took his time. He said, there is another man who's able to redeem you. So let's do our due diligence and go talk to him first, make sure, blah, blah, blah. So basically, God was just like, look, I've led you to someone, yes, but don't skip over all of the necessary things you need to do. Now, dating is obviously, it's not in the Bible, but there's elements that we can see, characteristics that we see, principles that we can see. And I think the Boaz and Ruth's story is who helped me. You see, I was struggling, and the Boaz and Ruth story was the prime example of you can be, and also I had to do my due diligence to her to let her know, look, I appreciate you. So how Boaz was
Yeah.
leaving behind, he said, told the men, y'all leave behind some wheat, some barley, so when she trailing y'all, she can pick that up. So I had to be strategic in how I presented that, but there was so much slowing down that needed to happen.
Yeah.
And that was really it. And then after that, God is like, go. Yes, I'm saying, yeah, I've led you to something. You do your due diligence now.
Yeah.
Make sure you do it right.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel like with hearing God's voice, all that kind of gets real sticky real quick, especially when our feelings get involved and like relationally. We just don't know sometimes what we're thinking, what we're feeling, how it goes into the mix, But I think like I'm still learning like what that looks like. And there was one like person that said the same thing to me, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh, like I guess if God said,
Oh.
Yeah.
That
I
part,
literally-
I
'cause
guess.
he was like-
yeah.
He was a worship leader, pastor's
Wow.
kid. I was like, I guess if God said he did, then it must be. But I was going through like mind trips every day, So I think like not ignoring like the signs you feel within your body, even. And, like, I would have dreams, right? And like, this sounds so crazy, but I had dreams where like I was getting married to this guy, but like right when we got married, right on the wedding day, I literally didn't know who he was after, right? But I ignored that. Right, like I
Let's not
ignored
ignore that.
exactly. I was like, oh, I guess in my dream, if I got married to him, I must get married to him. And I ignored the second part, right? So like to not ignore like the signs that are given to you just because of like, whatever you're thinking or feeling in the moment. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow. Well, this was great. Thank you guys so much. Loved having you guys on here. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode and there will be more to come. So please come back and we'll see you guys next time.